Hi guys, and with the basic perspective of compounding which we have in our backs, and hopefully we have understood, why time value of money is so important. We get into the topic of compounding, right? Because this is the first concept which we need to learn properly to understand the various formulas which get generated, right? Now, in our classes, you don't have to remember formulas, okay? Because we will do everything practically, and you yourself, will be able to deliver or create or derive the formulas. So don't worry about the formulas, even if you're not coming from a finance background. Okay, so let's consider what is written in the slide out here, right? So if you see out here, we can see that we've got a timeline which was pretty similar to what exercise we did previously, right? So since we're talking about time value of money, there has to be a time series, right? So time series is the 0, 1 and 2 that you see. And if you see in the same slide, you can clearly see that you've got 10,000 rupees, right? Or dollars, whatever you want to call it. And that increases to about 12,100 in two consecutive periods, right? And so this is the effect of compounding, right? So there must be some rate, right, or some percentage by which that 10,000 rupees is increasing, because of which it is becoming 12,100, right? So there are some examples which are given here. For example, if you receive 11,000 at the end of year 1, that means 10,000 has increased by 10%, right? That means 10,000 into 10%, which means 1,000, plus the 10,000 which you already have makes it 11,000, right? So then that's time value of money, right? And if you see the next period, so 12,100 at the end of time period 2, which is 10% over 11,000, which is 1100, plus the 11,000, so which makes it 12,100, right? So that's the effect of compounding which is being explained in this slide. But we're gonna go into a little more depth, okay, and little more explanation by just what we do best is to use it in Excel. All right, so let's open up the template which I have shared with you uh, over just next to the video, right? And I think that's the best way to learn this rather than just looking at it. All right, so I hope you have the template with you now, right? So this sheet will keep on increasing with the various concepts that we keep learning. And now you can see I have tried to create a similar timeline. Okay, it's just that I wanted you to understand this in a more visual manner, and hence I created this template for you to practice, right? Now you can see here on the top, on row number 2, I have put in 0, 1, 2, 3 and till 6, right? So that's about 6 years, or in time value of money terms we also call it as periods. All right, now periods don't necessarily mean that it has to be a year, it has to be months, it has to be quarters, it can be anything, right? So in this case, periods is obviously year, right? So one period is 1 year, right? Now I start with 10,000 or 1 lakh rupees out here at year 1, right? And in every period, right, so between 0 and the first year, right, we make about 2%, and similar 2% we generate in every period, right? Now what is happening is you need to understand this compounding effect more visually, right? So between just focus on the first period. Okay, so let's just keep our focus out here right now. All right, now 1 lakh generates 2%. So what exactly is happening? So the effect that is happening is that this 1 lakh principal remains the same, right? But that 1 lakh generates or works for you, and it gives you an extra 2,000. Okay, so understand this. 1 lakh, the principal that you invested remains same, nothing has happened, right? But that principal has now worked. Okay, so it has worked and it has generated interest of 2%. So it gives you one more amount of money, which is 2,000, right? Now see, so that means the compounding effect is about 2 out here, right? Because you have two sums of money, right? The principal and the interest. Between the first year and the second year, now you've got two principals, okay, that are going to generate another 2%, right? That means the interest that you generated in the first period now will generate one more interest, right? So that is interest on interest, right? So now if you see closely, the 1 lakh principal that you had in the first period remains just like that, right? It has done nothing, right? But this 1 lakh has, just like how it did in the last period, it generated 2000, right? Another way of thinking about the same thing is just to look at that you had these principle, so that principle goes nowhere, the principle repeats out here, right? So if you see here, in the second period, the principle that we now own is these two values, right? So these repeat again, right? So they don't do anything, right? But now these principle work for you and it generates you another 2%, right? The 1 lakh works for you and gives you about 2000 again. And this 2000, which you generated as an interest between the first and the second period, now gives you this 40 rupees or dollar, whatever you want to call it, right? Now in the next period, right? So now there's four effect, right? So four individual amount working for you for the next period, right? So see the effect of compounding, right? In the first period you just had 1 lakh, right? So that 1 lakh principal remains intact, but that 1 lakh generated you 2000, right? In the next period, between the first year and the second year, now this principal remains intact, right? But this again works for you, it gives you another 2%, and this 2000 again works for you to give you 2%. So that is interest on interest. Now see what happens between the second and the third year. Now this all amount, which comes up to be about 104040, right, becomes your principal. So this again repeats itself just like that. Nothing happens, right? The principle is intact. But now these four effect, right, these four values now again work for you just like how it was working. So the 1 lakh gives you 2000, the 2000 gives you 40, the another 2000 which this value generated in the previous period gives you 40 again, and the 40 gives you another 2%, which is 0 0.8, right? And again, if you see in the next period, this principle remains same, nothing to do with it. But again, these 8 values, or I might say, yeah, 8 values generate another 8 effect, right? So if you count the effect which is happening every period, it's just doubling, right? So from 8 you're going to 16, from 16 you're getting to 32, from 32 you're getting into 64, right? And if you just scroll down in this template, you will see that between the fourth and the fifth year, right, the scale of compounding tends to, go crazy, right? So if you see between the fourth period and the fifth period, you could still scroll till here, right? So you could see, okay, it's 0.0016. But now if you just scroll down, look at the amount of effect, right? Even though these values might sound, look very small, but think about if, you were not investing 1 lakh and you were investing 1 crore, or let's say if you were not doing just for 6 years but you were doing it for 20 years, right? And let's say that 2% is not for 1 year but it's for every month, right? So then the effect of money tends to increase big time, right? So between fifth and the sixth year, now you see it's 64 times, or the effect of money is about 64 times, including the principal, right? If you remove the principal, then obviously it will be 63. So that is the power of compounding, right? So interest on interest, this is what the concept of compounding is, right? So again, I'll just summarize the first 0th period. That means 0 is always treated as today, all right? So 0, you had 1 lakh, that 1 lakh remain intact, but that 1 lakh generated you another 2000, right? 2%. In the second and the first and the second period, the principal remained intact, but this 1 lakh generated another 2000, and this 2000 generated another 2%. In the second and the third period, the same principle remained intact, but again these four values again generated you 2000, 40, 40 and 0.8, and that's how the effect keeps on increasing. And you can just have a quick check if your calculation is going correct. But before that, what we will do is we'll try to summarize what is happening in every period, right? So if you closely observe between every period, so for example, if we just consider between the 0 and the first period, what exactly happened, right? So you had some value which is 1 lakh, right? And that increased by 2%, right? Now you could also write it in this way, into 1%, sorry, into 2% plus 1 lakh, right? That's exactly what happened, right? The principal remained intact, but you generated another 2%. So this would give you the same value, 1 lakh 2,000, right? So if you see, the addition of this is also 1 lakh 2,000, and what we just did out here is also 1 lakh 2,000. Now, can we try to summarize this, or can we try to simplify this? Formulas are nothing but simplification of a complex activity, right? So if you see out here, 1 lakh and 1 lakh is common, right? So in the next step, in the first step, I try to put in the observation, right? Whatever happened in the Excel. In the second step, what I will do is I'll try to simplify this and write it something like this: 1 lakh into 1 plus 2%. It will still give me the same answer, right? Sorry, just a little bit of value which I missed out is putting one more zero. Never miss the zero, it can make a lot of difference in life. So same thing, I just took 1 lakh as common and I put in 1 plus 2%, right? Just simplifying it, right? Just taking this as common into, if you open the bracket, it is 1 plus 2%. In the third step, what I could also do is I could try to name these values, right? So let's try to name. So if you see 1 lakh, if you look at the timeline, 1 lakh was what? The value of principal that we were investing at year 0, right? This is what it is, right? The value of money at year 0. And what is year 0? It is always present, right? So I could also try to simplify this in a textual manner by writing something like this. Okay, so for 1 lakh, I will replace it with present value, right? Because it's present, year 0 is always present, right? And put a multiplication sign that doesn't need any more simplification. 1 remains the same, plus what is that 2%? 2% can also be named as R, right? Which is the rate of compounding, right? So we just simplified what happened till now in year between year 0 and year 1, right? Trying to say that, okay, this exactly is I mean, whatever happened between year 0 and 1 is basically PV into 1 plus R. But hey, in the fourth step, let's try to simplify what happened in the entire sheet, which is between 0 and between 6. Can we summarize something? So what is happening between, let's say, we understood what is happening between 0 and 1 by, some simplifying it to this level. But what happens between 1 and 2? Can we try to simplify what is happening between 0 and 2 all the way? Or maybe from 0 to 3? Because every time we cannot write a simplification formula. So what is exactly happening is, it's nothing but the continuation of this, of how many times is it happening. So if it's happening 3 times, that means from 0 to 3, if you want to calculate, it will just be raised to 3. If it is happening for 4 times, then it is 4. If it is happening for 5 times, it is 5. If it's happening for 6, it is 6 times, right? So, or in formula terms, you would also try to write it as n, right? So what you just did is, you created a future value formula from observing what compounding is doing, right? In other words, you could actually just calculate the final amount. So if you see out here at year 6, the final value, if we just add up, so let me just show you how this works, okay? So if we do it manually, right, we would have got this value. Okay, so I'll just add up and show it to you how it works. So this is the value you got by creating this table, right? So this is the future value, right? And let's say if you had used this formula that you just summarized, what would have been the answer? So the answer would have been, we started with 1 lakh, into, right, 1 plus 2% v, the rate, right, raised to, how many times did it happen? 6 times. So that's the n, right? It will get the exact amount. In fact, it will be matching till the decimal places, right? So, and let me just, yeah. So there you go. Same answer whether you do it manually or by simplifying it, right? So what you just did today is to calculate the future value by using uh, the manual functions. We will not get into the time value functions, the shortcut functions as of now, because we want to spend some time right now understanding the concept first. Functions are very easy, okay. You can do this in a click of a button, right? But you want to understand what's going on, because these might be some of the questions, when you are faced with a complex situation. That time your fundamentals will really help you in answering those questions, right? So it's also called as the first principle, right? Elon Musk talks about the first principle. Solving any problem, you go to the first principle. What exactly is happening? So what you just saw out here is the first principle, okay, the core working of compounding. So thank you for watching this video. Hopefully the compounding is now clear to you. If it is not, we can meet in class and discuss it again, or probably you could just put up in the comment box. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next class.